Hey everybody, it's Conscious Medium Brandon Russ, and go ahead. Go ahead, type right down there. Who's your favorite on Golden Girls? You couldn't escape them in the late 80s. Syndication actually did wonders for them, and you couldn't not watch them. Whether you loved Rose Nyland or not, she complemented all of the other characters on the show perfectly. Most importantly, though, it actually drew out a part of who Betty White was. That simple yet charismatically caring person that she truly is. Thank you so much for joining me here and being here on the It's in the Stars with celebrities. We're taking a look at Betty White here today. Go ahead, type down below, and I'm going to see you back here in just a second. Betty Marion White was born January 17, 1922 in Oak Park, Illinois. She started out in radio and then quickly made the jump to television, where she even landed her own variety show. As a woman, she was in rare air, and she became an even deeper rare air when she pushed Arthur Duncan to the spotlight with giving him more airtime. A black dancer was not something America was ready to see, but the Mary Tyler Moore Show, an independent woman, she was part of an ensemble cast that was Emmy Award winning. She was hobnobbed in Hollywood all over the place. She had great friends such as John Steinbeck and Lucille Ball. But she was later known as the Queen of Game Shows. Always being a good time and up for a laugh, her comedic humor and on the point caught the eye of Alan Ludin, the love of her life. It happened to be her third husband, but true love was found. He unfortunately passed away in 1981, where then she committed herself full-time to acting again, where she won Emmy after Emmy for daytime television. That led to the opportunity of a lifetime with the Golden Girls, everybody's favorite Florida what have you, of the gaggle of women that were just bonding together in the later years of their life. It's set up for comedic humor across the board. Bea Arthur, Rue McClanahan, and of course Estelle Getty rounded out the cast of all quick-witted women with perspectives of the world. Betty played a dim-witted Minnesotan that told stories about Uncle Olaf and completely out-of-place anecdotes that were just downright hysterical. Oh, and just for reference, these women are actually older than what the Golden Girls were when they moved to Florida. Here's her pop culture icon, Eazy-E and Dr. Dre. I just thought it was important to let you know that Betty White is kick-ass. She also loved animals. She loved animals more than anything. She was a staunch advocate for animals' rights. Being a strong supporter of the ASPCA, she understood how important animals were to us in everyday life. She always took an opportunity to push the agenda of just being kind to all things living. She's also the first person to be brought onto SNL on a Facebook campaign. It was an incredible night as it served the highest ratings SNL had seen in years. Now, her legacy is about her co-host and what they say about her, really. Everyone raves about how wonderful she was and how generous she is. And she was just simply kind. She was part of over 35 television shows. And as a matter of fact, Hollywood used to actually make up that she was part of the ensemble cast even before she was, just to get people to sign on. That's how much people wanted to work with Betty White. Now, it's my time to show honor to a beautiful soul in Betty White as we take a look at her stars and why she was such an amazing and impactful woman. Hey everybody, Conscious Medium Brain and Russ again. Thank you so much. And before we get started, I wanted to let you know about a campaign that we're doing to help the Ukrainian refugees. Now, war is terrible, and as an empath, you're challenged with all of this because what can you do? Well, here's what you can do. You can actually dial up our website, you'll see in the link below, and go ahead and purchase any one of the Empath Rising t-shirts. 15% of our profits are actually going to go to the Be Strong Foundation, who is currently supplying humanitarian efforts for Ukrainian refugees just inside of Poland and other neighboring countries. Come support them. If there's nothing else that you can do, purchase a shirt. It's great looking. It's fantastic. And by all means, sometimes you don't know what to do. This is what to do, right? Go ahead and get this shirt right here. I also wanted to point out, a lot of people have been asking me, and by the way, thank you so much for your likes and subscribes. I love it when people share this video. I know that that's how social media works. I know that getting it out there, posting on your Facebook, bits on your Instagram, that sort of thing, I really do appreciate it. To the now over 10,000 people that are subscribed to this channel, and we are growing. There's some really cool things coming up here. And one of the other things that I definitely want to kind of throw out there is also... Hey, Betty, how are you? Can you go back and can you go back for a second? Okay, thanks. Woo. Anyways, I just hit the wrong button. I think it's this one. Yeah, there we go. The complete astrology class, which will be actually held on Zoom, goes over everything you need to know about astrology. So if you really like what you're seeing here, by all means, jump in. The discount goes until the end of March. We're going to go over the meanings, the zodiac signs, the placements, the planets, the elements, the houses, the sun, moon, rising, aspects, transition, retrogrades, Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, the phases of the moon, the cycles, the natal chart impact, the natal chart analysis, the placement, the shapes, the past and present future, the karmatic value, and predictive indexes of astrology. I totally just took a sip of my coffee. Thank you so much. But go ahead and click below and head to the Linktree page. The Linktree page, I'll use English for the rest of all of this. I'm sorry for those of you in neighboring countries that I may have not have said it the correct way. Guys, I can laugh at myself, really. I don't need you to pile on. But I'm really excited about the astrology class. And by the way, some of the tools that I'm going to be using, very similar tools, like talking about the houses and the planets and that sort of thing, are charts and graphs that I actually use in the class. So you get this really nice, neat package. And if you can't make the live, you will get the recording, you'll get the content, you'll get part of the community. You will absolutely get connected with all things within the astrology class. So just because you can't make it doesn't mean you can't get the course and be a part of it. Just know that we're recording it live. If you can, reach out and what have you. If you have any trouble, I also know that we're working with a lot of international people right now. Thank you so much for helping me grow. If for some reason you're not able to put forth a payment through whatever international causes are, just shoot me an email. We'll work it out. I'll make sure that you're in the class. So let's jump in, everybody. I want to bring up her beautiful, beautiful face one more time. Hi, Betty. How are you? How you doing? Thank you for being a friend. Anyways, it's a long way to go to just get that joke in. Betty White, as you guys know, was part of an ensemble cast, but her career went backwards. That's why I pulled up that short little video that I made. And I want to dive right into the chart here. And again, I know I'm probably about 8 minutes in before I actually pull up the chart. But let's jump in and talk about the ultimate humanitarian in Betty White. Born January 17th, 1922 at 6:38 p.m. in Oak Park, Illinois. As many of you know, she passed away on December 31st, 2021. As if 2021 couldn't be any worse, then we lose Betty on the way out the door. She's got a really cool aspect here. And let's take a look at her triad. And by the way, the triad is defined by the sun, moon, rising. She's got a sun Capricorn, and let's cut to the chase with Capricorns, because that's what they do. Capricorns don't really mess around. They really don't mess around. She loves the idea of tradition. She loves the idea of being connected to, being pragmatic with how she approaches it. All things being graceful, being able to understand that, listen, she may be materialistic. She's not going to have a lot of things, but the things she's going to have are very nice. She's really respectful, especially in the sun sign, but she can often be a little too rigid. Well, that rigidity has actually paid off for her in different situations. She always enjoys long-lasting love. It is always deep and 100% who she is. She's also a beautiful woman without being known for her beauty, right? She loves serious relationships, and she has direct purpose to her social responsibility. This, everybody, is 100% no less than the Queen, Betty White. And I also want to draw this, and I'll break screen here in a second. If you take a look at the moon and the moon in Virgo, and then the second house in Virgo, that's a really interesting placement for me because, of course, the moon is in the second house. That's what that means there too as well. But the way that she really kind of operates with this, and this, I'm going right into the whole humanitarian connection part of it. She's going to be emotionally vulnerable, and she really needs to kind of, like, she's going to check out if she doesn't understand what her role is. She's passionate about people, but more importantly, she's going to be affectionate. She's going to be comfortable in her own skin, right? That also lends itself to all of the work that she's done with animals, right? So right out of the gate, sitting right there in the middle of all of her chart, she's able to really kind of drive home what her essence is, right? Now I'm going to break screen here for just a second. I want to talk about her Leo rising here for a second. Now, Leo rising is not an uncommon thing for people that become famous. Leo rising is really kind of reserved for people that are driven, want and understand the spotlight, but then also their challenge then becomes how do they handle it, just like anyone else. How do they handle it? This fame given to them, did they work for it? Did they earn it? Did they respect their position there? Her Leo placement here is the reason why Betty White was a household name. The reason why you fell in love with Betty White is because she's a Capricorn sun with a Virgo moon. In a nutshell, I just explained to you Betty White in 30 seconds. To expand that out, you've got to look at the rest of the houses, understand how she deals with position and placement and the other influences to things like her planets and why it is that things became the way that they did for her, right? Let me pull up the chart here again. So just to give you a little bit of a feel, she's already made the argument that she is a really good person based on this. Like, so what we're doing a little deconstruction, right? We already kind of know Betty White. Now we're going back into the chart and we're seeing it. You can accuse me of like piecing it together, but I'm just telling you this is where it's in her chart. Now let's take a look at the Mercury and the Libra. Now the reason why you line up the houses like this is because Mercury is about communication. The third house is about communication. And oh, by the way, I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to pull up the other one here. The reason being that we look at the individual houses. And by the way, if you enjoy charts like this is how I teach, right? So in the third house, this is about mind. This is about learning. This is about communication, right? So right here, when we look at this, I'll pull this up again later. I want to pull the full chart. And by the way, this is a little bit how I teach, but I make sure that you get all the content right in front of you. The Libra is really about balanced communication. Is everything fair? Right? And by the way, Mercury in Aquarius, let's just have a little bit of a chuckle. Mercury in Aquarius is really about going by the beat of your own drummer, right? Betty White didn't just listen to a different drummer. She beat the drum as a different drummer. So this right here, literally with her Mercury in Aquarius and then in her third house in Libra, this is about equal rights. This is about her taking up social causes and making sure that you know that if you're taking advantage of the disadvantage, that's not going to be cool with her. She's in the package of a sun sign Capricorn. She's not going to put up with your horse hockey. That was a little Rose Island. I'm sorry. Oh, you bitch your sweet patootsas. All right, anyways. I do an awful Betty White. Did I just say I do Betty White awful? Let's go back to the chart. So you've got this argument already. Now she's got a little bit of a tough placement with Venus and Capricorn and then Scorpio in the fourth house. You can start to diverge this a little bit, especially once you get into the sixth house. But the sixth house is actually incredibly important to her because she is geared towards longevity, right? She did live to 99, everybody. Hats off to her, right? So now you also have this Capricorn, love bomb here, right? She's going to be incredibly practical with who and what she loves. By the way, it makes perfect sense that she would love animals, because animals, pets of all ages, wild, what have you, don't really have an agenda with you. They just are. So, of course, as a Capricorn and Venus, she's like, either you love me or you don't. That's why she fell in love with animals so easily and supported the ASPCA. Now, taking a look at across the way here in the fourth house, her Scorpio. And by the way, when we talk about the fourth house is, of course, about the home, the family, the root, that sort of thing. Being a Scorpio means that she's just a private person. She does not really blather everything around this. And by the way, later on in life, it's kind of interesting when you do research on people, you see what people write, they tweet and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're in this information overload age, right? And misdirection and all that other good stuff. But with her, she would always kind of allude to the fact that she kind of knew certain men and she didn't mind if this one, go ahead and take that one. By the way, she was never credited with saying, forget about penises, you should get a vajayjay because that thing can take a pounding. She never said that. She never said that, guys. I know it would love her for the legacy, but it's not what she said. That being said, back on this placement, it allows her to really kind of get to the bottom of what she loves and then keep it dear. So Scorpio in the fourth house is really about the privateness of her life. And by the way, there's a lot of speculation out there. She had the love of her life for the better part of about 20 years, and he passed away in 81 to stomach cancer. The last 3 years, she didn't make any movies. She didn't do any TV. I think she might have done an occasional guest spot with all of that TV show, with all the game show stuff, which is how her and Halen actually met. But she was very sparing. She didn't take on projects, right? When he passed away, she took a little bit of time and then she dove right in. That also tells me that she grieved in such a way that she took care of it. She did it herself and she didn't have to do it publicly. You know how she did it publicly? She loved animals. That's how that went down for her. All right, let's take a look at this chart a little bit more. Now, her Mars, of course, is in Scorpio as well. Well, now here's kind of where the secretive stuff comes in, right? She had incredible intuition, as all Mars and Scorpios do, but it was also part of the reason why she became famous. Yeah, there's a little bit of secret, but she had secret sauce that she wouldn't tell people. That's why you had this magnetic piece to this. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and go here. Scorpio, Mars and Scorpio for women is completely different from Mars and Scorpio for men. Some of them are kind of like the edge on each other. You're kind of like, there's kind of that. Scorpios are polar. They just really are. And again, if you have a comment or a question about Scorpios in general, go ahead and jot it down below. But when it comes to men with Mars and Scorpio, you tend to have somebody that's kind of a little bit of a player, you know what I'm saying? A little player energy, a little doggy dog, you know what I'm saying? In women, it just means like, I never kiss and tell. That was Betty White, everybody. By all accounts and purposes, she kissed a lot, especially after Alan passed away and she kind of got back into the groove. But she made it very clear that any of her suitors, she was not interested in anything long-term. She just wanted to maybe go to the movies or dinner with them. And who knows what they did behind closed doors. She's a Scorpio. She will never tell you. Which, by the way, added to her legend because speculation kind of made Hollywood go around. And it was actually a really cool thing that she was like, well, I don't really ever know, but maybe. There were rumors about her and John Steinbeck forever. But as she always claimed to her grave, I am a good girl. That's who I am, and that's what I am about. Good job, Betty. Mars in Scorpio right here. Awesome sign. You lived right up to it. Now, I'm going to stick in the left-hand lane here for just a minute, but there's a couple of things that I want to kind of point out too. The Jupiter and Saturn in Libra. I am going to probably tick off some of my compatriots. I'm going to tick a few of you off. I'm going to call this a junction. Even though typically with a juncture, you typically have about 4 degrees either way. This is a little bit more. This is like 10 or 11. We'll look at it again. But I want to talk about how both Saturn and Jupiter are in Libra, right? This is where her social activism came in, right? This is an incredibly important thing for her. This is an incredibly important piece to how she became Betty White, the household name. By the way, she didn't change her name. Her name is literally Betty White. Let that sink in, everybody. That's a sign of somebody genuine. Now, let's pull up her chart again here. I don't know what I'm doing there. There we go. So, yeah, so you've got like an 11 spread here. But, you know, if you look at Saturn being in Libra in retrograde, that's what that R stands for next to it. The R means that it was going backwards in the sky. I'm actually going to start making some videos about what the content specifically is about things like retrograde and aspects and trine and that sort of thing. But for the sake of our argument here today, just know that Saturn started to kind of come back again so that then it could get a little bit closer to Jupiter and make sure it was within Libra. Now, it was well within it at 7 degrees, which I think would take the better part of 2 months. But just know that it was sitting there in that component for her. And again, I'm going to call it a juncture. Feel free to yell at me down in the comments below. The Jupiter in Libra is really about being able to understand everything at play here. In other words, let's take everything into consideration. There's no good, there's no bad. The truth is somewhere in between. However, the Saturn in Libra, very fitting for her, means that you're really going to do everything you can to keep stability, to make proper decisions, to be able to be connected with the decisions that you've made and be able to sleep with them at night, right? Now, those two do a giant junction together. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? I want justice in the world, basically, and I want to be able to sleep at night knowing that the right decision was made, right? Anybody else have My Cousin Vinny flashbacks with me doing this? Identical. Anyways. So those two, that combination right there is a kind of a go big or go home. Now, if I was really going to beat the drum on that and say, it's a junction, and we've got it's conjunct, and we've got blah, 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 it's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's, a couple of degrees off from being called conjunct, but they're both in the same sign. This is a powerhouse for her. This is a game changer. This is the reason why she had no problem putting a black dancer out on her variety show and promoting him at a time when black baseball players didn't exist yet except for on the other field. She had no problem saying, he's really good, and this is my variety show. I need Mr. Duncan out there in front and center. She lost her job over it, everybody. Guess what? She's Capricorn, and she don't care. That's her 11-11. Is it the right thing? By the way, the Aquarius aspect of Mercury, 11-11, I'm going to do what I want. I'm sorry, did I just swear? Did I just say that this beautiful woman would flip the bird off to them? Yeah, I did. Especially if you're being discriminatory, especially if you're hurting an animal, especially if you're doing something downtrodden. And by the way, don't forget, she was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. That show in and of itself revolutionized the idea of a strong, independent woman. She was the supporting cast. Holy snikes, is she the supporting cast? In more ways than one. Oh my gosh, I love doing this work. By the way, I love my job, everybody. Let's go back to the chart. Uranus and Pisces. This is an important aspect too. And by the way, we're into the generationals, right? We're into the part where everybody that was born during this generation kind of has, give or take, Uranus is a few years out. This is something you see things, you're solution-based. Uranus and Pisces is creative solution to the rebellion, right? I'm going to actually kind of pull this over because especially as we're talking about these planets, I want to make sure that we've got... Hi, planets. There we go. Again, if you like this chart, this is how I teach. So Uranus is about rebellion, eccentricity, upheaval. And then Pisces is really kind of about the creative nature of who you are, right? Now, as a generational component to this is you looking at do we have to do it this way? Let's reinvent the wheel. Let's go ahead and do something different, right? That's how this entire generation kind of is. And when you think about it, she was born off the heels of World War I. So the world is strategically populated with people that have an ability to see a solution with limited resources, right? Kind of makes sense. And by the way, anybody that's born during this time, again, give or take, I think it's 14 years for this cycle with this one. And by the way, it changes because it waffles the level of the Earth. I think that the time frame in, actually, it's almost 20 years. I think it's 18 for this one. But it waffles like that because you have the dynamic of the changes of the oscillation into the houses. way deeper conversation for this, but just know that there is a mathematical value to it and it is predictable. Back to the chart. Here we go. So then you have Neptune in Leo. By the way, here's another retrograde, everybody. We've got 2 retrogrades back to back. You've got Neptune and Pluto. Neptune sitting in Leo gives us the influence of being able to say to ourselves, like, you know what? I'm going to be charismatic. I'm lucky to be alive. Again, we're coming off of World War I. I just said that, World War I. I'm doing a chart on someone that was born on the heels of Armistice Day, right? So generationally, this is all about being able to be charismatic, zest for life. I just love everybody, right? Now, Pluto's in Cancer here. Pluto being in Cancer, well, she doesn't have a whole lot of water. For somebody that is very, kind of a little bit of a bleeding heart, her water placements are actually her weakest. If you take a look in the bottom right-hand corner, she's got earth, air, and water. Her only fire placement is Leo. So that's why she's not a typical actress. That's why she's not somebody that was like full of arrogance and rage. She's actually very much like, if I get to act in this and I make a certain amount of money, I can help all those animals. That's Betty White's chart. Let's go back to it. Let me line this up in a way that I can go, let's go back to the chart. I'm really working on it, guys. I really am. So you've got the Neptune in Leo, which is about this charismatic zest for life. And then you have Pluto in Cancer. Well, this goes deep really quick, right? And by the way, Pluto is a planet, cut it out. In this generation, and by the way, Pluto was in Cancer from 1914 to 1939. So this placement actually walked through this generation that was known as the silent generation, right? They wanted to build a home and kind of hide in it. They needed recluse. Their contribution was all about family, all about nurturing, safety, harnessing the value of other people, right? The mistake that they might have made is if they never took risks. Well, she's got a couple of cool placements here, like being a Leo rising makes her do risks, right? One of the challenges that they need to heal with Pluto in Cancer is really all about, the quite frankly, the horrors of war. And to be even more honest, maybe it was horrors at home. Don't forget, we didn't have a lot of social structure then. We didn't have, CPS that you could call because the kid got beat. Oh, by the way, most kids by the time they hit 10 years old were working in the factory or they were working in the coal mine or whatever the case may be. So that's defined by a lot of that. A lot of nationalism during that time, a lot of like centralist sort of view. But what's interesting about this for Betty is how much she felt connected not only to the cause, but then also to help her understand who she was. How she applied it was very much with this retrograde to be able to say, like, you know what, guys, you can build a perfect home, but let's go ahead and take risks. That's a really key thing for her because it's all over her chart. It's all over her behavior, right? And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, Lilith here, it definitely has influence, right? So she might have been a little afraid because with her Lilith and Pisces actually really kind of represents like the fear of being harmed, right? Lilith, as we know, is the mythological / biblical character that exists in the Bible as Adam's first wife. She got all mouthy and she's like, I ain't doing it. You clean your own dishes. And then Adam goes, listen, boss, can we get rid of this? Can we kind of do this? He'll be like, I call her. I'm going to make her a snake, but I'm run out of parts, so I need your rib. That's the story of Lilith in a nutshell, right? So Lilith is kind of about this kind of like subversive connection that you have to kind of work through and these challenges. Well, with her Lilith and Pisces, what's interesting about this is that her healing really comes through overcoming her stage fright. By the way, she had crippling stage fright, which is why she went into radio, not television at first. Then she got the hang of one thing and they said, you've got a pretty smile. And she goes, oh, well, I'm no Greta Garbo. And they said, we don't want Greta Garbo. We want Betty Funny. By the way, Betty Funny was actually one of her nicknames through the 40s. She was nicknamed Betty Funny. Go ahead, look it up. Go ahead and tell me down below. All right, let's go back to the chart here. Nope, empath rising. By the way, this just in. Do you like the shirt? Do you like the way it looks? You'll love the way it fits. You'll also be supporting Ukrainian refugees. All right, next we'll go on. Now, figuring out all the tools and whistles, everybody. Now, one of the things that I also want to kind of point out is back over here. And by the way, her North Node is in Libra. She's really kind of destined to bring balance, be an advocate, bring justice, right? So that's what the North Node represents. Again, I'm oversimplifying it, but for the sake of this video, we've got it. Let's pick back up on the 5th house in Sagittarius. I always like to take a look at the 5th house and the 8th house. Sagittarius and Pisces is all about those two together. When you have the 5th house, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up the houses right here. Ooh, and bring this forward. Here we go. I want to take a look at the 5th house and the 8th house together. And the reason why astrologers tend to look at those two together is that combination right there, that really good combination, is all about the creativity and children and romance and fun. And then the 8th house is about sex and all the things that you think you're kind of guaranteed with the relationships, right? The fun but yet tragic stuff, right? The shared resources together with somebody. It's about sex, death, joint finances, right? And then in the 5th house, it's about creativity, children, romance, fun. Well, don't forget she's got a Leo rising, and the 5th house is really about Leo energy, right? In her case, and we're going to go back to her chart here for a second, in her case, the placements now are Sagittarius, another fire sign, and then connected with the 8th house Pisces, where Scorpio typically rolls in. Let me explain how this is. This is a great placement for someone that might not ever have children. This is a really important thing. By the way, she was a fantastic stepmother to Alan Luden's family. She stepped right in at a great time. She had influence. She had impact. She also adopted a lot of animals, and she was always caring for them on another level. That Sagittarius Pisces placement in the 5th and 8th house actually screams adoption. I have the exact same placement, and I've adopted 3 children. It's kind of cool. I'll share with you if you come along the journey, okay, guys? I look at Betty White as an incredible inspiration when it comes to this right here in her humanitarian ways and efforts, right? For me, it translated into adopting 3 children. For her, it was her wanting to take home the entire zoo. I think she actually made a joke once at the San Diego Zoo that they're all coming home with me, and she ended up with a cub at her house for like 6 months as she nurtured it and raised it. It's kind of a funny story. Go ahead, look that stuff up. That's the fun stuff after these videos, to just go down this rabbit hole of like funness about Betty White. You'll find a lot. So let's take a look back here on the chart. So that's what those kind of components mean. Now, this is a woman that was 99 years old when she passed away. She is in her 6th house Capricorn, right? By the way, she was totally and completely about her survival mode. 6th house is about how you treat your physical body, your health, your wellness. She was Capricorn. She was hardcore. She was designed to live 99 years, guys. She was 99 years old because this Capricorn is practical based. Like, am I hungry? Then I'll eat. If I want to get drunk, I'll get drunk. If I want to sleep, I'm going to sleep. Right? That doesn't mean she's skirting obligations. It doesn't mean she didn't tie one on from time to time. And it doesn't mean that she wasn't a little lazy. But she also had a very good disposition about who she is. Capricorns in the 6th house are traditionally very healthy. This one notwithstanding. But what I will tell you, when you get that powerhouse combination of the 6th house being in Capricorn, and then, oh, by the way, being in the sun sign, and guess what, everybody? I'm going to go ahead and turn this chart back on, and I'm going to go, offline for 30 seconds here. I just want to point out that also the sun is in the 6th house, obviously. So guess what? She was born to really take care of her body. This is a really important thing, guys. Your sun is in your 6th house. You've got longevity on your side. 99. Yeah, really cool. All right, back to the chart. All right. Yeah, I'm always careful with how many bars I hum. And thank you for being a friend. So, let's see. She's 5 on one side, 5, 9, 4. She's a life path 5. That's pretty kick-ass. Am I doing that right? Let's see. 1 plus 1 is 2, and 7 is 9. 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 plus 4 is 5. She's a life path 5, everybody. Bit of a runner. Of course, she's had a couple of relationships. She was married 3 times. But I think the important thing about her, when you look at the numerology of life path work, 5s are really known to kind of be like a change maker. Like she was meant to be a change maker, right? There's also things with this, like in relationships, she's never going to really be satisfied. Of course, she found the love of her life, had that settled time. He passed away from cancer, and then she never remarried. She was never really attached or really kind of held down, so to speak, with a relationship. Well, guess what? She's a life path 5. Have you ever tried to nail down a life path 5? It's like trying to nail Jell-O to the wall. You're just not going to do it, right? But a life path 5 is driven to be like, all right, what am I going to change next? Where am I going to have an impact next? Oh, she's a Leo rising. She's amped up, kids. She's amped up. All right, back to the chart. Here we go. So now she's, now let's just kind of move this along into the 7th house. This is about partnerships. This is another placement of humanitarianism. So in the 7th house, and again, it's always a lesson, guys. I hope you like these videos. I like to teach as I go. The 7th house is about the relationship and the partnership. Well, she approaches it from you got to do your job and I'm going to do mine, right? Aquarius and the age of Aquarius is about personal responsibility. So if you come to work and you don't know your lines, Ryan Reynolds, she's going to bust your balls all effing day. That's just the way it is, right? I remember Valerie Bertinelli said she got mad at me once because I got my placement wrong. I guess you're supposed to stand in a certain place. And Betty goes, God damn it, did you pay attention at all during the thing? And she was like, is she being funny? Is she not being funny? Well, guess what? In her interpersonal relationship, she's working hard at what she needs to do to bring it. And if you don't, she's going to bust chops, baby. Can you imagine yelling at Valerie Bertinelli going, are you even trying? By the way, Eddie Van Halen's chart coming up next. I love music. All right, so let's dive into this again. Let's jump to the 9th house. This is about how you learn. So she became a student of who she was, and she also really kind of picked apart who she was. So the 9th house is really about higher education, philosophy, spiritual connection, and travel. She lived an adventurous life. By the way, Aries, spot on, right? Something that she would say would be something like, good idea, bad idea, I'm in, what time do we leave, right? How much gas do we have? A half a tank and a couple of cigarettes? Let's go. Like, that's her saying, that's where in her chart, she's able to really kind of drive that, right? That's where her passion comes in. That's where she overcomes the homebodiness of some of the other placements, like the Pluto placement, the Neptune placement, right? The Cancerian placement. That's where she's like, zest for life, baby, let's go. Back to the chart. Now, her 10th house in Taurus, and by the way, the 10th house in Taurus is almost a sacred positioning. Again, 85% of anyone that is going to have Taurus in the 10th house is going to have Leo rising, right? It makes sense because as you go through these, right? They are going to be somebody that has no problem with, and again, this is also kind of connected with Capricorn values because this is a Capricorn house. This is all about being able to say, listen, they have no problem taking what's theirs and not necessarily giving anything back. I'm laughing because our charts are incredibly, what have you, they're incredibly close. But you know what? She might get a little big-headed and uncooperative. Well, it's probably in the conditions of other things happening, right? Right? So listen, you have all of these things that are angling in on you. You have, I communicate this way. I want to build this relationship this way, blah, blah, blah. Well, Taurus comes in the 10th house and has that little thing where you're like, oh, she's really nice. She's a really nice person. And generally, by and large, her chart is actually a very congenial placement, right? But here comes Taurus in the 10th house, and you mess with her. You flat out say to her, remember when I was talking about Aquarius, like you got to kind of bring it? Well, in this case, in her partnership, you got to bring it, right? That's the 7th house. Here in the 10th house, she's literally kind of got this thing in her back pocket going, listen, why am I doing this? Why in the hell am I showing up here today? Now, her bigger picture, her bigger scope is to say, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to negotiate $1 million contract in 1984 to be on this television program, which is what I think she did. She was like the 4th highest person ever, right behind Mary Tyler Moore and Lucille Ball, by the way, 2 of her closest friends. And be able to, by the way, birds of a feather flock together, have powerful people around you that are powerhouses. It will make you a powerhouse. She's a great example of that, and she knows her role. This 10th house in Taurus makes you sit around the campfire, drink a couple of Cosmos, and go, you know, that Betty's pretty badass. She really doesn't give a shit. She has no problem taking what's hers, right? And she's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to give that money back to the producer. You're the one that signed me. It's too much money. It's on you, right? Now, on the flip side of this, the other compassionate and optimistic way of the Taurus in the 10th house is awesome. One of the ways that you can see somebody be a Taurus in the 10th house is their insane optimism, right? Because they're just like, yeah, we're going to land on our feet. Now, what does that have to do? It kind of sounds like I'm being contradictory, but it's all about the situational understanding of what's going on. By the way, that's the reason why we also look at placements on a daily, monthly, yearly basis. These are where your 10th house is going to be affected, right? Oh, and when Taurus gets back into the 10th house, right, that could have been a powerhouse time for her. I should probably look that up for myself, actually. Now, 11th house into Gemini, 12th house into Cancer. Now, 2 things with this. We really kind of doubled down on this. So the 11th house is representative of where it is that you want to go with your friendships, with your social life, with your, with like, how is your outgoing gregariousness too? Well, she's Gemini. Guess what a Gemini is in the 11th house? She's kind of sort of a flibberty-gibbet. She's kind of sort of somebody that is like, you know what? Betty, let's talk for a second. You're Gemini in the 11th house. You talk a lot. But I'm going to venture to guess that even her ability to be like kind of a little bit of a, oh, I'm going to talk about so-and-so. I'm going to be gossipy. I'm going to be whatever. Which, by the way, Gemini in the 11th house are a little gossipy. But those of us with Gemini in the 11th house, guess what? We learn our lessons, and over time we start to say, nay, nay. Well, I'm going to show you exactly where this comes in for her. Remember how I talked about her 4th house being in Scorpio? Right? And having her Mars in Scorpio as well. Well, this is kind of doubling down going, I really shouldn't talk shit about people. I should let them have their privacy. So she's going to evolve her Gemini in the 11th house a little bit with being able to say, you know what? I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. I'm not going to do that to them. Now, Cancer in the 12th house. Well, the 12th house, as we know, I'm going to bring up a little bit of love here. Here's the planets. Hey, Betty, go away. Thanks. Planets again. Yes, I go into all of the karmatic stuff in the class. How did I lose this all of a sudden? Oh, here it is. So the house explanation, again, I want to bring this up. The 12th house is about the karmatic value, the self-sabotage, the things of the house of the undoing, if you will, right? She has Cancerian energy. Don't forget what I talked about. She was born into a generational side of it of being too closed at home, not necessarily working anywhere. Being like, oh, I'll always go home and I'll never take a risk. Like safety on safety, right? Well, here comes the 12th house for Betty. It's in Cancer. Cancers are the home bodies. Her undoing as a person would have been if she never took any risks. It would have been if she did stay too much of a homebody. Betty, thank goodness you overcame the challenges that you had in this life. I love you, Betty. I really do. And I know you can hear me. I tried to have a conversation with you this morning. They wouldn't let me open that portal. Anyways. One more aspect here to this. If you take a look in the bottom right-hand corner, you see how she has a mix of masculine, feminine. She's somewhat balanced, but she's a little more feminine. Her cardinal is really important here because with those cardinal placements, This really tells you and everybody that you're not going to change your mind. She is going to be a humanitarian. She is going to see it through, and she's going to go with the flow with that because she's right and you're wrong. Have a good day. Right? That's why she did Snickers commercials. Right there. Right there. It's pretty fantastic. All right, guys. Now, I just want to make sure I'm covering everything within this chart. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I mean, I wanted to take a little bit of a different feel, and I didn't want it to be quite so controversial all the time. There really are positive things going on in the world, and I want to remind everybody of this. There are bad people in the world. That is why we created the empath rising, right? I'm going to go right there. It's pretty fantastic. All right, guys. Now, I just want to make sure I'm covering everything within this chart. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I mean, I wanted to take a little bit of a different feel, and I didn't want it to be quite so controversial all the time. There really are positive things going on in the world, and I want to remind everybody of this. There are bad people in the world. That is why we created the empath rising, right? I'm going to go. Wait, what? Oh yeah, I accidentally hit the mute button. Let's just kind of make fun of myself for a second here and talk about how much I use my hands. For not being Italian, I use my hands quite a bit. Now, I'm incredibly passionate, and by the way, I come from the school of public speaking where you capture the attention of the listener. By the way, I'm talking about empath rising, about how this is a way to support something that goes to good, and as an empath you feel like you're making an impact. And now I'm just rambling on. And if you haven't gotten my shtick yet, here it is. I look away, I look back at the camera, I wave my hands back and forth, and it's kind of sort of funny. Oh, and a lot of people have asked me about the bracelets that I'm wearing. Well, it's actually to honor a couple of my students who actually gave them to me as gifts. One of them was from Sandy, who runs all of our crystal stuff. And she got me this really cool bracelet that's grounding. It's got black tourmaline on it. It's got, I think it's rhodochrosite. I'm not really good at that crystal thing. She's expert at it. And the other one was Nick. It was actually one of Nick's students. Oh, there you go. I'm just waving my hands now. There you go. You can see the bracelets right there. So the other one was my buddy Nick. His student, he was a teacher for years, started a company with these kind of like masculine bracelets. And I thought it was really cool. And he's like, hey, let me give you one. And it's fantastic. And so I wear it for the two of them to kind of honor them. And it's kind of funny that the empath rising was a conversation that the three of us had one day where it's like, hey, what do we do for empaths? Oh my God, I'm just a goofball. I'm not even, by the way, I think I had to go to the bathroom at this point. Because when I fold my hands, that's kind of the way to know that you got to get off of the next rest stop. That's it, right there. Like I had to pee. So that's probably why I hit mute. I just was not in the game. My head was not in the game, you know. And by the way, if you're like looking back at the video right now and my lips don't match what I'm saying, it's because I hit the mute button. It's because I hit the mute button. But oh, that's another favorite thing I like to do. Like I kind of like I'll lean in a little bit, like I'll whisper and I'll put my hand next to my mouth like I'm telling you a secret. That's another way of engagement, just to let you know. I'm a professional. That's what I do. And let's see, what am I talking about here? Oh, yeah, and then I clear the screen. But I really have to finish the studio. It looks like I'm like in a goth center, like I'm outside of like City Hall. And like the Batman light is on. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I really don't. I got to clean up my act. So here I am talking again, waving my hands back and forth. This is also me just saying supportive stuff. I'm probably talking about the class again. You should probably sign up. And then, when I put two hands together, it means you pull over now. That's when I really have to go. That's what I do right there. Oh, this is my favorite. So this picture, oh my God, I just went gay for Betty White. So this picture of her with the lion is like my favorite. She's a Leo rising, and she has this awesome picture of of her with this lion. I don't know. It's just great. And I noticed so many similarities between Betty and I as I went through this. We literally have the same rising house structure all the way through. It's just, come on. I can't make this stuff up. But she's one of these really cool humanitarians. And, oh yeah, this is the part where, like my molars are floating. Do you see me getting fidgety? Yeah, I gotta go. Anyways, I'm talking about the accolades of Betty White, and she's really cool. This lion picture is just spot on, kick-ass. I mean, there's so many things with that. Oh, I'm adamant about something. I forget what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, I'm like pointing down. I'm like putting my hands together. I'm like kind of pulling a Bill Clinton here. Oh, I'm doing the heart tap. It's a heart tap. Love one another. All right, guys, peace out. I hope you got a chuckle out of this one. Next time I'll remember not to hit mute. I'll see you guys later.